Just want to say a few words about the disturbing news from Pakistan over the last few weeks about the church arson attacks in Jaranwala, which is a city located in Faisalabad district in Punjab. So the basic background of this is two Christian men were accused of desecrating Qurans. They were arrested, but then the Muslim mob attacked churches. Luckily, no one died, but people were forced from the homes. It was a riot, a violent riot against the Christian community there. Um, and apparently, there's been more than 100 rioters arrested. So just go read out some of the information here from some of the basic information from Wikipedia, the Wikipedia article on this. Reactions: Pakistan's caretaker PM Anwar ul Haq Kakar criticized the rioters and called on them to stop the violence. The US State Department Principal's deputy spokesperson, Vedant Patel, called for a full investigation into the events, stating that we support peaceful freedom of expression and the right to freedom of religion and belief for everybody. It's a curious phrase to talk about peaceful freedom of expression when this clearly wasn't peaceful. It's like they were treading carefully there, I think too carefully. Organisations that condemn the attack include Amnesty International and Minorities Alliance Pakistan. International Christian Concern, a Christian human rights NGO, said it was deeply saddened by the events and called on the international community to pressure Pakistan to repeal its blasphemy laws. Archbishop Joseph Arshad of the Roman Catholic Bishops' Conference on Pakistan said our places of worship people are not safe in any way due to this. Um, we demand a transparent investigation into this regrettable incident for the supremacy of law and justice so that a better society is established where religion and harmony are respected. And I hope the Pope speaks out as well. Demonstrations condemning the violence in Pakistan's blasphemy laws took place in Karachi and Lahore on the 17th of August. Now, the police have made arrests. Rizwan Khan, the regional police chief, said that 129 people in connection with the mob violence have been arrested. These include members of the far right Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan. Government officials also promised to provide financial compensation for residents whose homes have been attacked, as well as assistance in rebuilding. Here's the thing: this is not the first time this has happened. The Christian community has long been under attack in Pakistan. We've seen violent bombings of churches. Indeed, there's been bombings of mosques as well. The Ahmadiyya community has been targeted, but churches in Peshawar and elsewhere, sometimes during Easter. Pakistan's not the only country where Christians are persecuted. It's happened in Egypt. It's certainly happened under other Islamic majority countries. The fact of the matter is, Christians are among the world's most persecuted people. And for people who sort of look at fundamentalist Christians, they think, oh, well, that's they do a lot of persecuting. True. If you were, say, gay person living in Uganda or Russia, you might say it's the Christians that are doing the persecuting, or maybe the fundamentalist Bible Belt of the United States. But that doesn't mitigate the fact that Christians are persecuted under Islamic theocracies. This is just reality. This is not persecution necessarily sanctioned by the state. And the Pakistani government's condemned it, and they've done the right thing making arrests. But the real problem here is the environment that's creating this. Firstly, there's a hypersensitivity. The question has to be, why on earth would two Christian men take that risk? Unless they're mentally ill, why would they desecrate a Quran knowing the consequences? So the mob's pretty stupid to not consider that. Why would they do it? I mean, they're a minority. It would be an incredibly risky thing to do. Even here in the UK, in West Yorkshire, there was the case of the boy who was accused of scuffing a Quran. Now that was in West Yorkshire. So in Pakistan, this idea that any Christian would be foolish enough to deliberately provoke the Muslim majority is just insane. So very often these things start with false rumours. That was the case with Aisha Bibi, the woman notoriously targeted by a mob over again alleged Quran desecration, and she eventually got refuge, I believe, in the Netherlands. Shamefully, she could not come to the UK because the Islamist threats in this country against her were such that her safety couldn't be guaranteed by the then Prime Minister Theresa May. It may have actually been when May was Home Secretary. I can't recall off the top of my head. But it's good arrests have been made. It's good that they're not acting with impunity. But like I say, it's the environment. So long as Pakistan has rigid blasphemy laws, those blasphemy laws can be abused. I don't know how big these demonstrations in Karachi and Lahore were, but clearly there are Pakistanis, and I'm sure not just Christians, I'm sure there'll be moderate Muslims as well who know that this is a problem. They know that it's weaponized, um, but it's clearly going to continue so long as those laws exist, so long as this hypersensitivity. And I know that's naive of me because it isn't going to change overnight. I mean, even the Pakistani government is probably powerless to act against the extent of theocracy in that country. I don't think any Pakistani prime minister can say this is, wrong. We need to modernize, or it's it's deeply embedded in parts of Pakistani society. That's not a generalization; it's just a reality. Um, but I would say this: it does mean that Islamabad is in no position to lecture Western countries on so-called Islamophobia. Why? Because there's simply no comparison. There simply isn't. You do not get a situation where mosques are mass attacked over an alleged insult to Christianity or atheism for that matter. It just does not happen. What you do get is individual hate crimes. For example, you may get a Muslim who's attacked for openly wearing a hijab, or um, maybe an imam is attacked by some drunk thugs, right? You do get those sort of incidents happening. And I'm not saying there's never been an example of anti Muslim hate crime. We know that there has. The Quebec City mosque attack, and indeed the most notorious example of recent years, the Christchurch attack in New Zealand. But frankly, the scale of it doesn't even come close to the level of persecution that goes on in Islamic theocracies, and not just against Christians, also against atheists and against so-called Muslim apostates. Any Muslim brave enough to denounce their faith, and they probably wouldn't be able to do it openly. So I think we should take no lectures from Islamabad because the Pakistani government has tried to lecture the West on this. There's just no comparison, none. In fact, Muslims in the West are probably safer than they are in many Islamic countries, especially if they're part of a minority group like Sufis or Ahmadis. So this is a very troubling situation. It's better than nothing that arrests have been made. Hopefully they'll be charged and serve prison time. But there is clearly Pakistan is not a safe country for Christians because this is not a one-off. Something like this happens sporadically. It's and it's a very dangerous environment. But these people are Pakistani citizens. They may be Christians, but they're Pakistani citizens. So they should have equal treatment under the law. And clearly there is a problem. I think the Holy See should call this out, because you also get, for example, northern Nigeria. There's endemic persecution of Christians. You get this in many parts of the world, and it's a very serious problem. Um, I mean, you can imagine the situation if, well, indeed we did. We have the example, the Christchurch mosque attack. There was condemnation across the world. New Zealand had a lot of soul searching. There really was a very concrete response to that. The same month, churches were bombed in Sri Lanka by Islamists. They also got condemnation, but that is just one of a long, long line of violent attacks against Christian places of worship. And I just don't think that you can make an equivalency and say the same thing happens to Muslims in the West. It just doesn't. Not on the same level, not on the same scale. So I don't know what the answer is. Pakistan's a big country, over 200, given reassurance by the government that Islamists will be punished for this sort of violence. And the hypersensitivity, I don't know how to deal with that. Maybe a government campaign to tackle misinformation, I don't know. Reducing the power of clerics, I don't know. I mean, it's not easy in a country like Pakistan where that theocracy is so deeply entrenched. But anyway, it's a disgraceful situation, and my heart goes out to those people who've lost their homes and places of worship. One woman said she was preparing for a wedding. In this incident, no one died. That's something, but they could well have. Um, so yeah, Pakistan really needs to deal with this problem before it lectures any other country on discrimination. I know it's not sanctioned by the government, but and I know they're doing what they can, but it's a question of false equivalency because there just is no comparison.